What are we talking about again? Movies.
Movies Part 2.
It's our first part 2.
We
should have done that with Democracy, to be honest, before we end.
To think we've done over a year and we still haven't had a number 2 yet.
Well, that'll be a big one.
Captain's log.
Fuck's sake. Hello, Internet. I'm Firebolt.
And I am the Orbiter.
You are in a weird mood today, okay?
Yeah. Well, I'm excited.
Okay.
Not physically.
I wasn't even thinking that, but
now you are, and you regret your life.
I already regretted my life.
This is not a good start, is it?
It's a fantastic start, what you're talking about. Anyway, this is going to be our first part 2 of a subject.
Number 2. The sequel. That doesn't really work, does it?
Does it?
Number 2, the sequel.
No.
I watched Ready Player One last night. You were too fucked still from the night before because you had a hangover.
Okay. Yeah.
The reason I bring that up is because I was wondering if there's going to be a Ready Player 2.
There probably won't be, because...
Fantastic film.
I don't know. It apparently didn't get very good reviews.
I liked it. I liked it a lot. But it had a lot of references in it. I'm not going to talk about it too much, though, because this is possibly something that we may include in a further new development. There's something else we're going to make a passive mention of, isn't there?
I haven't seen it, so...
Yeah, which I think would be worth adding to our list of things.
Right. This may have been in the announcement, or we may have decided to check out the idea. It's in...
It's going to be in, isn't it?
Whilst we're recording, we discussed it a fair amount, and we got a fair amount of ideas, but we're still a little shaky on how to actually execute the idea of an entirely new podcast, which, if it has been recorded and went out,
this is a really long sentence.
You may have already seen, where we talked about the Shawshank Redemption.
Oh, right. Okay, yeah. There'll have been a New Year announcement by the time this podcast goes out.
Well, yeah, this is well into January.
Yeah, this is the 17th, hopefully, if we catch up by that time.
Well, you might still be working on the anniversary by then.
No, I've only got 2.5 hours to edit through. There will be cake.
We maybe shouldn't have made 2 courses in that.
Yeah, it was fun though. It is going to be good.
Yeah,
when it's finished. It will have been good by the time this goes out.
Tweet I just put out before recording, I said it might be our best video ever. No pressure.
Oh, great! I'm pissing myself laughing.
Well, I hope it'll speak for itself, even if his editing's shit.
I'm going to cry now.
I'm joking. It won't be. It'll be mediocre.
Anyway, so yeah, we make a passing mention of we watched Shawshank Redemption. We're going to review that, aren't we?
We will have, maybe. I don't know. We're not going to talk about that today.
No, but we're going to carry on with movies. And I believe we spent a lot of time talking about Star Wars last time. Yeah. And this time we have some stuff to...
A little bit about MCU.
Move on to. Yeah, some MCU. Did we not say about... We did probably... talk about the Matrix enough, didn't we? Yeah. We didn't talk at great length about it, but it's...
I think one thing that I maybe didn't mention, and forgive me if I'm repeating myself, because these are recorded relatively far apart and I have a shit memory, especially when I've been
drinking
over the past few days since it's
and not sleeping.
Yeah,
and gaming lots.
Yeah, okay, well, that game is like heroin, the game that I'm playing right now.
What are you playing right now?
Kingdom Come Deliverance, and I am that blacksmith's son right now. I can't not be thinking about that 24/7.
Speaking of which, that's a brilliant segue into a film that I haven't seen, and I'm pretty sure you haven't seen, but I have been told and highly recommended that I should see, and I understand is very good.
What?
Deliverance.
What's that?
It's a film. It's a
Okay,
movie.
Shit.
All I know about it
I'm
is
thinking of Arrival.
there's a section in it, something to do with dueling banjos.
Dueling.
Ding 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 ding. I think it's kind of redneck country, kind of about attitudes to homosexuals or something. I don't know.
Is that where the Mission from God thing is?
No, that's Blues Brothers.
Right.
Also an awesome film.
I've got so many like classic films that he
actually I'm not sure if I've seen Blues Brothers 2000. I don't think it was a remake or a reboot, but that might be one worth. I don't know. Today's discussion, we decided to do a part 2 because we got to the end of the part 1 a fortnight ago, and we were only just getting our teeth into the subject, weren't we?
And our camera ran out of battery.
Yeah, and we'd done Star Wars to death. We're going to do MCU to death today, presumably.
Well, we did do it a little bit then. But I think there's still a lot that we haven't talked about with that.
Oh yeah, Robert Downey Jr. We got onto that, didn't we? About how it's basically Iron Man saved his career and Marvel's.
Yeah.
I mean, I was working at the cinema as a projectionist when Iron Man came out, and I knew a fair few comic book nerds at the time who were very excited about Iron Man coming out. And I suppose in some ways it could just as easily have been shit, and they could have been disappointed.
Well, I think before then, like, the only superheroes that really got a mention were Batman and Superman, but they're DC. The only Marvel one was Spider-Man, I think.
Yeah, well,
before the films came out, I don't think a lot of people even
X-Men had been around a while, but they weren't being made by Marvel, were they?
Yeah, same with the Spider-Man Sam Raimi ones.
I did actually enjoy the X-Men films, but I am very excited at the prospect of them being integrated into the MCU.
Yeah, Logan was a bit weird.
It was quite retro, that. In fact, they released a noir edition, didn't they? Black and white version.
Yeah, I was just very confused for most of that about what was actually going on. And I know that you're kind of supposed to be a little bit uncertain about what happened.
Do you know, one thing I've noticed, the opening of it gave me a bit of a vibe of kind of Clint Eastwood era kind of
yeah, Hugh Jackman's getting to look a bit like Clint Eastwood now.
But one thing I've noticed that some film producers do to give film a bit of a dated look is to put a little bit of what's called bob and weave on. I don't know if you know what that is. Well, also with the you can put some sort of filter effects on digital video, which is all pretty much filmed as now, to make it look like grainy, like actual film stock, or put sort of faint scratches or dirt flecks on the picture, which you would get on film. But bob and weave is basically the very slight. If you've ever watched a film on a TV at home and you notice that the image moves ever so slightly up and down and left and right, that's basically the mechanics of a projector, kind of.
Right.
I don't know whether it means it's not properly set up. I mean, a top-notch projector shouldn't do that, but yeah, that's dating stuff. Actually, somebody we should bring up talking about that. Quentin Tarantino needs a mention.
Yes. Did he didn't direct Shawshank Redemption, did he?
No, that was Frank Darabont.
Have you seen Inglourious Basterds?
I have, yes. I will leave that other Shawshank thing for our Shawshank feature. Yes, Inglourious Basterds I have seen. Quentin Tarantino I brought up because another film that we showed while I was at the cinema, and this was the longest film that I'd actually done. I think it was like 9 reels or something. Reels are about 20 minutes long.
Pulp Fiction?
No, it was Grindhouse, and it was actually a double feature, but it was all done in the style of B movies. So there were, I mean, we got away with everything as projectionists for that because it was done in poor style. It was done with scratches all over the film, like on the film itself, and jumping and bobbing and weaving and really bad edits and stuff like that, as if it had been a film that had been at in a projection room where it had basically been butchered before it was put on screen. So, like, we did things like, I mean, it wasn't part of the film, but I'd probably get in trouble if they'd have known at the time. But things like, whereas normally at the end of a film you would have the shutter would come down to stop the light going onto the screen once the film runs through, so you don't see any of the crap on the tail of the film. I just let it run out because that was the style of the film. It was just like really amateur kind of,
Yeah.
But Quentin Tarantino,
was that deliberate?
Yes, yeah, it was done by him deliberately. In fact, they had a series of trailers positioned in between the two films. I can't remember what they were, the two films. But Grindhouse cinema was a thing. It was like basically, you'd have to look it up. Look up Grindhouse. I don't know what I'm talking about. Just like sleazy sort of flea pit kind of Grindhouse movies. Horror film double feature. Robert Rodriguez and Quentin Tarantino. What were they? They were Death Proof and Planet Terror. Planet Terror was basically it was this woman who lost a leg, and she had a wooden leg, but she had her leg replaced with a machine gun, so she could go around shooting people with her leg.
Intriguing.
Death Proof, I can't really remember much about it. I didn't really watch them, but yeah, Quentin Tarantino's quite. That's another one. Experimental, I was going to say. That's another one I would like to see. I've never got past the first scene, and it's quite a brutal first scene. Is what's it called? Shit, I forgot what it's called. It's got Kill Bill. That's it. Kill Bill Volume 1 and 2.
Ah, right.
Have you seen either of those?
I've seen parts of them.
Yeah. I've seen Pulp Fiction. I've seen Reservoir Dogs.
I want to see Pulp Fiction.
Fantastic film.
Samuel L. Jackson looks funny as shit in that.
He's a dude.
I've watched the Hitman's Bodyguard relatively recently, but I fell asleep during it, so I'm not entirely sure.
I saw The Hitman, which was a movie kind of crossover from the game, and it wasn't very good.
Yeah, no. Video game movies are rarely good. I thought that about Assassin's Creed. Whilst it's nice that they got a relatively big actor in with Michael Fassbender. Is it Michael Fassbender?
Yeah.
It just doesn't really fit, because the interesting part about the game there is the historical part. I skip through like all the future bits because they're the most boring fucking thing.
Yeah.
Although,
but you say that even though that the storyline and everything in the film wasn't brilliant, you like the games, don't you? Assassin's Creed games.
Yeah, so, I mean the story
is the story just not done justice in the movie, or
to be honest,
does it just work better as a game?
Well, yeah. If you could hear any noises, again, my niece is around.
We think she may be about to make an entrance.
She might be.
Yeah. We can pause and start again if we need to.
We might have to. What was I saying?
I don't know.
Video game movies. Oh, I thought Tomb Raider was done quite well. Hello. We're gonna have to pause this.
Okay, we will see you shortly. Well,
we're back.
After that short intermission,
So back onto the subject of video game movies. I feel like there are some games. Oh yeah, I was talking about Tomb Raider. Sorry.
That worked.
Yeah, that did work. I mean, it changed the story quite significantly, but it kind of needed to. Because to be honest, I didn't really care about any of the characters in the actual game.
What did you think of that? Because do you think the other way round works better? Because you've played Matrix Path of Neo, haven't you?
Yeah, and Matrix Reloaded, which is more of a tie-in. Path of Neo, the bit for the first film was pretty good, but then they had to get creative with the other bits because a lot of them, like we said before, are philosophy.
Right.
Although I did find it interesting for the Matrix not Reloaded. What's it called? Enter the Matrix, I think.
Yeah.
Where you play as... Is her name Niobe?
Yeah.
And, well, you can choose either her or Ghost to play as in that.
Excuse me, I've just been eating M&Ms. I'm just picking them out of my teeth. Carry on.
Yeah, that wasn't fun when I was sick the other day.
Oh.
And a little bit to peanut.
Nice.
It wasn't.
So yeah, what was the other one I was thinking of? Don't know. It's gone out of my mind.
Yeah. I think the interesting thing about that was that they'd actually shot like entirely new bits for Enter the Matrix.
Right. What, with the actors?
Yeah. And the hacking minigame was quite fun.
Right.
Although I had no idea how to actually do it. So I just looked it up and was just like, wow, there's actually a multiplayer mode in this. Path of Neo, but yeah, there was this weird thing about ants.
Right.
Like these weird ant things, and you go into the chateau, and then like you kind of start tripping for some reason, and it's really weird.
I'm not having a piss, by the way. I'm just pouring some.
Poor. Yeah, it goes into a really weird bit with that. And then they completely changed the ending because it's a really boring ending for a game. So you have to just fight a massive smith made out of other smiths.
So, as it stands, the MCU is... it feels like there may be not a reboot, but... potentially they're trying to maybe change direction a little. Not like I say, not a reboot, but it seems like, I mean, the next film's going to be called Endgame, which I'm pretty sure with the success level that they're at the moment, they're not going to be thinking about ending the MCU. So it implies
it might be
there
a
might be
turning
a
point
change
for the Avengers, though.
Yeah. Yeah, that's the point. I mean, I don't know enough about comic books to know...
Because apparently, and I've heard this theory, you've seen the MCU Spider-Man movie, right?
Is that Homecoming?
Yeah.
Yeah.
In that, I mean, the character doesn't get explored a lot. She's more just in the background making funny comments. MJ, we'd assume Mary Jane, is actually black, and in the comic books at some point a black girl takes over from Iron Man.
Oh, right, okay.
So it's possible that given, I mean, I don't know how Spider-Man's coming back, because he will be, I think, unless they get I think Miles Morales to take over, but they haven't really even mentioned him in Homecoming, so it'd be a little bit weird.
I think there's some kind of reciprocal arrangement with the writers for Spider-Man, because the reason he's not been in the MCU stuff up until
they've only got the agreement for I think this film, Endgame, and another Spider-Man movie so far. They might get
That's
more.
with Sony, isn't it?
Yeah.
But with Disney having bought, is it Fox? Have they bought Fox?
I don't know.
I think they did, and I think Sony is part of the Fox group. So there is speculation that there may be a route there for Disney to put them together. But you see, there's different areas of the rights. There's rights for here we go.
It's still owned by Rupert Murdoch.
Well, who was it Disney bought then? Disney bought someone last year. Who owned X-Men?
It might be that they've just bought X-Men or done a deal.
No, they bought a big. I'm sure they bought 20th Century Fox. Yeah,
expecting to close a deal this week.
Yeah, but that was 14th of December 2017. They actually did close that deal. They bought Fox. Disney Fox deal. Here we go. Means X-Men, Deadpool, Fantastic Four join Marvel.
But they haven't bought Fox. Fox is way too big for that.
They fucking did. They bought 20th Century Fox's entertainment assets.
Some of them.
They fucking bought Fox.
Oh, did they?
Yes. Last year. Well, this year. Sorry, earlier this year.
Avatar, The Simpsons, and Star Wars. Oh, is that why they've got that new Avatar world? I didn't know they started building that way before then.
Yeah, but that is why they've got so much control over the Star Wars stuff, like rights-wise. And the first Star Wars film. Now, there was something about that. What was that?
I don't know.
Because if you... Oh, what was it? I can't remember what it was. There was something different about the first Star Wars film in terms of rights, that George Lucas had reserved something.
I don't really care about who owns what rights. It's just that...
No, but what it does mean is that, for instance, we were talking last week about the original theatrical releases, which Star Wars nerds have really wanted to be available, and they have
Disney
never been released. But, well, they could do that now if they wanted to, because it was George Lucas that didn't want them released. But he's given ownership rights to them now, so they can... that was it. If you now buy a Star Wars film on Blu-ray or DVD or whatever, it'll have the Disney opening logo thing at the beginning.
Okay.
But the first Star Wars film doesn't. That only has...
Do you mean first as in terms of episode numbers?
Sorry, episode 4, New Hope.
Right.
That starts with the... I can't remember.
You just can't remember anything.
No, but there was something about the opening.
Well, let me tell you a story now. I can't remember this bit.
I'm getting old, you fucker.
Story. And there was this fox once, and then...
This fox?
This mouse bought a fox, you see, and then... what was it?
This mouse bought the fox.
I'll tell you later what I remember.
Fucking hell, can you imagine that? If we're still podcasting in 50 years' time.
You'll be dead then, maybe.
I'll be 97.
That's pretty old.
Yeah, but...
Especially for the amount of drugs you've done in your lifetime.
I haven't done any for a long time.
Yeah, but the health...
Ow! It's the alcohol that does the damage anyway. Or
a
lot of the damage.
Glass of port.
Well, at least I didn't throw my ring up the other thing. What's it? Night.
Yeah, but I'm young.
So was I once. Put my cockwomble on there.
There we go.
Yeah, just should explain that. For viewers, you can now see what we have renamed a cockwomble. For listeners, there's this sponge windshield that goes on the microphones, and the Orbiter Firebolt even decided
What's my name again?
decided to rename them cockwombles. So that's what we're calling
Well,
them
you
now.
called them mic condoms.
I feel like this is going off the rails quickly.
It is. Hey,
It really felt like we needed a part 2 at the end of the last episode, but
we're falling apart. Well, because you just keep going like, oh, what was this thing? Oh,
movies.
Oh, I can't remember.
Yeah. Well, as we're recording this, it's what the phone rang and woke me up this morning, 9:15. I was supposed to be at the dentist at 9 o'clock. I didn't know what the fucking day was. It's the 29th of December. Nobody knows what day it is. It's not.
Yes, it is.
Oh, for fuck's sake!
It's the 28th. You still don't know what day it is.
Nobody knows what day it is in between Christmas and New Year.
I do.
Yeah, only because you were looking at the screen there.
No, because it was our anniversary yesterday. We're not married. It's the anniversary of the channel.
Ooh. A deformed cockwomble.
Fuck's sake, stop playing with that. You'll break it.
That just, yeah, there's a...
Anyway, I want to talk about... Actually, first I want to talk about Love Actually, because I watched it last night against Better Judgment.
I haven't seen it.
And stayed up until like 3 a.m.
I don't think I've seen it. No spoilers.
Oh, I can't not spoil it. I'm not sure.
Well, I suppose
I'll try not to.
That assumes that I'm not actually going to watch... That I'm going to actually watch it, but I don't know whether I will.
So that assumes that you'll listen to me.
Who are you?
Exactly. Anyway, so basically... and I was quite surprised at this, because I actually thought it was like an old film, like a classic.
Love Actually, it's quite old.
It's quite old in terms of internet years, but like I thought it would be like a 50s film.
What are internet years?
Well, like...
Would you like a mint?
No thanks, can you stop getting distracted?
What are internet years?
Well, like something like ASDF, for example, is as old as YouTube itself, I think. So
ASDF.
It's a cartoon sketch thing made by Tom Scar.
Who's Tom Scar?
He's clueless. I'm not going to show you ASDF. I think I've shown you it before, but it's...
There will be podcast listeners that don't know these things either, so...
Look it up.
Oh, they can look it up as well. I might, if I can be asked.
The earlier ones were a bit dated, and it's really annoying because people repeat the jokes to shit, even though they're not really funny outside of the context.
Dear listeners.
With just people repeating lines from something.
Repeating lines and something?
From something. It's like when people just repeat jokes from Monty Python, not realising the irony of that.
Dead jokes.
Yeah, they get dead once they've been repeated 1,000 times.
It is a dead
but
joke.
They're still funny.
It has ceased to be. Why is my laptop having a fit?
Because it doesn't like you.
I don't like you either. What's that from?
I don't know.
Star Wars Cantina, for fuck's sake.
Just shut up. Right, I wanted to talk about Love Actually.
You did? Sorry, I forgot about that. Carry on.
It's actually made as recently as 2003. In terms of movie years.
That's 15 years ago.
Yeah, it's possibly...
That's the year you were born.
Yeah.
It's been made... It was literally made a lifetime ago to you.
Well, not quite, because I think it was made around about Christmas, because it is actually about the...
You're talking about released, though.
I think it was released about Christmas.
Yeah, so they'll have been making it since before your lifetime.
But in terms of, like, old films, like, when you think of old films, you might think of something that was, like...
Gone with the Wind.
Yeah. Or the original A Star Is Born. Or Star Wars. I mean, you might not think of that as too old because it was... Well, I guess you probably would even still think that as old, just
It would
you're older.
depend. We do need to watch the Harmy editions, but yeah, it would look older in those.
But I would have thought it would have been more of a classic film. But I was surprised to realise that it was only made in 2003. But anyway, it tells the story of... I think it's meant to be 9 intertwining stories, which gets quite confusing.
Right.
About love in various forms. And it's...
Spit it out.
It's interesting because, well, I did look it up afterwards to see what sort of reviews it got, because I was also looking for the actors, because some of them I was like, where have I seen this person? And I also learned that Colin Firth from Kingsman is the old guy, not the young guy, which I thought it was the young guy.
Speaking of which, just slight digression, but we'll come back to Love Actually. Have you seen The King's Speech?
No.
That holds a significant moment in movie history, in that it's the first time a 12-rated film was allowed past the BBFC with the F word in it.
Oh, right.
And I think now, because of that, they can have up to 2 instances of the F word in a 12-rated film. Well, that was the last thing I heard. It may have changed because censorship. That's something that may be worth exploring, actually, in a movies thing, is censorship. Yeah,
I do find it annoying how things like... I suppose you can get relatively graphic violence in a 12-rated film.
Yeah.
But one nipple, you're fucked.
Yeah, well, I think the thing that made me realise that as well, how arbitrary some of the rules on censorship are, was Lord of the Rings, seeing the Uruk-hai being beheaded.
Yeah.
And it was literally because they're not human, but they're all but human, you know. I know they're different. They're fantasy-based creatures, but they pretty much look like big, muscly blokes doused in tar, don't they?
But then I still think that world, like, as soon as it goes to 15, that becomes a mature film.
Yeah, it's more about the subject matter.
Yeah. But I think just in general, society tends to underestimate kids quite a lot, actually, because like I played my first 15-rated game and I think it was about 9. Which isn't because you guys are shit parents. And whilst that might have been a little bit different for me, and I did have nightmares about one of them, but that was because it's a clown.
Well, that's the thing. That's the thing
that's
about
not because of violence.
But that's the thing about censorship in terms of games. They're advisory ratings. They're not. You're not allowed to play them, and it's the same with DVDs of movies,
and
because they can't stop people watching them in their own home. You can stop people going into a cinema to watch them, but it's not illegal for us to let you watch an 18 at home. Because they really can't police it.
Well, it's like okay, we shouldn't get in too much trouble for this. Deadpool 2 was the first 15-rated film I watched. We did try and go see it beforehand, but I wasn't actually 15 at the time. So
weren't you like literally? It was a few days away from your 15th birthday.
I think it was a month or so.
A month, was it? All right. Yeah, but then having said that, your sister had been to see 15-rated films when she was 14 and got
yeah,
in. Okay.
And I'd seen the original Deadpool.
Yeah.
So it was ridiculous because it doesn't actually fit.
No, but I mean, cinema chains probably don't really care, but they, apart from the fact that they can get their license taken away, literally, if they're caught letting underage people into films.
But I think it should just be sort of every film needs to kind of be taken down a peg.
Well, they kind of are gradually. I mean, you look at stuff that was X-rated.
Well, like The Matrix is a 15, but that would definitely be a 12 today.
Oh yeah, yeah. And in fact, 12A came in because, and you don't get 12A on DVDs because it's irrelevant. You can't insist that an adult accompanies you to watch a DVD. But yeah, 12A came in specifically because there was complaints about the 12 rating that was applied to one of the original Spider-Man. One of the Spider-Man movies came out, and it was 12, and that was when 12 at the cinema meant 12. There was no accompanied by an adult thing, so they had to bring in the 12A rating because that's what the public wanted.
But they should have a 15A.
Yeah,
because
I'm trying to remember what the ratings were when I was a kid. There was U, there was A, there was AA, and X. And I think A was the equivalent of the 12 or the 12A. I'm not sure which.
I know
AA was like a 15.
R-rated movies.
Yeah, so that stands for restricted, doesn't it?
It's probably the equivalent of an 18.
Yeah. I mean, I kind of agree with the guidelines thing. I think it's good that they put in little descriptions after like the U and the PG and that saying what the content is that they're because then parents can make it.
It is quite a barrier in gaming because all the major AAA things, unless it's like Nintendo, aren't really stopped by the same restrictions as movie producers are, I don't think, because to get any sense of violence in their games, like, it has to be an 18 pretty well. No, not violence, but like to just have a swear word in games, it has to be an 18. We might have to stop again.
One thing that did occur to me actually while we were momentarily paused there was that I think you can look at the time that a film or a program comes out, and it's almost like a reflection of I'm sorry. I farted, didn't I, before we started? And it's just circulating.
Oh, God.
I was trying to sound all serious there.
I'm glad smell-o-vision isn't a fucking thing.
That's fun, farting in a cinema. Because nobody knows who it was. Anyway.
Unless you make a really loud noise.
Yeah, it can often be a reflection of what the taboos in society are at a given time. Because you can imagine, I mean, at the moment, see, it seems completely unbalanced to me. I mean, movies are a fantasy world, unless they're like based on true stories, and often then they're fantasy worlds as well. But anyway, horror films, while it's fine to let people see people having their heads chopped off or their skin ripped off.
Honestly, I think horror films are the only things that should be 18s. Because there are some things in horror films that now... But that's just because I'm not a horror film fan. It's weird because...
And it depends what the level of horror is. I mean, some of the Final Destination stuff's only 15.
I think I could cope with Final Destination because that's more the gore side rather than...
And there's levels of gore, isn't there?
Things
like some of the Saw stuff is quite gruesome,
And, well, that's quite twisted as well.
Whereas there's humour in the Final Destination stuff.
I think the point is quite a lot of lawmakers worry about impressionable people getting inspired by that.
But you're always going to have
people
that.
Are quite impressionable. But then, 20-year-olds are quite impressionable as well, so...
Well, there was quite a controversial film called The Accused. I don't know if you've heard of that.
No.
Which showed quite a disturbing... it wasn't graphic, if you like, but it was quite a disturbingly realistic scene towards the beginning of the movie. Jodie Foster, I think it was in it. And the whole thing's basically about... a court case, and and bringing a group of people to justice because she gets gang raped near the beginning of the film, and it's very uncomfortable viewing to watch. But obviously there would have been a time when that subject, whether it was
but I feel
shown or not, would have been taboo.
Not talking about it's worse.
Yeah.
Not like having such an atmosphere of fear around that subject, even though it's quite distressing for people who have experienced it.
Yeah.
I mean, war films are going to be quite distressing for people that have experienced it. I think not talking about it's just going to make it worse.
Yeah.
Because there's still you get really surprised by the amount of people that don't seem to realise just how much of a problem it is.
So was that, speaking about war films, I think, I'm not sure, but before Saving Private Ryan, certainly, possibly earlier, but that was like the first realistic portrayal.
I know that they did do quite a lot of glorifying of that sort of thing.
Yeah, I mean, if you look back to stuff like the Dam Busters and Bridge Over the River Kwai and Guns of Navarone and stuff like that, it's all given that kind of what ho chaps, tally ho, and the British kind of.
Well, because I imagine
almost propaganda.
Since the British government had a hand in the censorship part, they wouldn't want it seeming like.
But the British Board of Film Censors aren't government owned, aren't government run now, are they?
They're not, but in the past they were.
Right.
In the past, you can even send letters home from the front that weren't checked.
Yeah.
To make sure it wasn't dissuading other people from joining.
But then Dunkirk, that came out last year, I remember seeing an interview with somebody who was actually there.
Great film. And
they said that when they watched it, it was just like being taken back there. You know, it was that realistic that they felt like they were back there, you know. So
I found interesting that there was, I think, a ticking throughout most of it.
Yeah.
And sometimes that paused for tension.
All right, okay. I know there was the continually rising harmonics, wasn't there, in the soundtrack, the music.
On the topic of gang rape from before, 3 billboards outside of Ebbing, Missouri.
Oh yeah,
that's an interesting one. I didn't like the protagonist through most of that, but I still felt more and more sympathy with her as I realised just like how shit the situation was.
I remember feeling let down by the ending with that film. I can't remember what happened, but there's so many films where you think it's going to stop now, isn't it? Oh, for fuck's sake. Because you want something else to happen.
Yeah, well, I feel like anticlimaxes are a bizarre but poignant way to end some films.
There was one film like that I've heard some people, and I think it won Oscars, it certainly was nominated anyway, but I've got friends who said that it was a really good film. It was Manchester by the Sea, which I watched that, and it was kind of good, but it didn't seem to even have an anticlimax of an ending. It just seemed to stop. Like it was like it was halfway through a film when it was like, hang on, you've not like left like a sort of what might happen next kind of thing. It's just like the film's just stopped. It's like weird. Which there was one film actually that did that before, but it was because they ran out of money. It was the original Lord of the Rings adaptation. Don't know if you've seen that. It's quite famous for being so poor, actually.
Right.
It's kind of semi-animated.
I haven't seen that.
But they ran out of money when they were making it, and it kind of finishes halfway through one of the battle scenes. I think at the end, towards the end of the second book, they tried to do it all in one film, basically.
Right.
And I mean, it was stylistically it had character, but
I want to talk about that book to film thing, because a lot of people give shit to movies of the books because they're not exactly faithful to the source material. A good example would be the fourth Harry Potter film.
Yeah.
The actual book, I think, is 36 chapters long. It's, I think, the second longest book in the Harry Potter series. Because it's told from, and a recently recommendation watching wise, I think it's Movies with Mikey. The actual channel's called Filmjoy. I think that's just one of their things, and it's quite well edited. And I think it's just one guy doing that specific thing. Not sure, but he does do in-depth looks into the sort of culture as well as the actual content of the movies. And they recently did a 3-part series on the story of Harry Potter.
Right.
How the actual films came to be made. I found it interesting there. They were debating whether to split that one into 2.
Right.
But for the, I think 4 through to 6, and the reason that they split the 7th book was because that was mainly from Harry's perspective. From 4 to 6, they had to switch it to Harry's perspective rather than having a look at other characters' perspective, which I think they'd done previously somewhat.
Well, I've in one of the other podcasts I listened to talking about the Harry Potter franchise, they reckon that at the moment the Fantastic Beasts thing is signed up for 5 films.
Right.
And
I quite liked the first one of that. I've heard bad things about The Crimes of Grindelwald, though.
But we haven't seen it yet, so
no. I always.
But then the theory is
a bit annoyed at some people just for sort of jumping on the bandwagon as soon as.
The theory is that after that, they're likely to do film versions of the Harry Potter and the Cursed Child. With the original actors from the films, because they will be of the right age.
Right,
for that part of the story then. And then after that, they reckoned that they're likely to go back and reboot.
Well, I know there was a bit of a debate a while back when The Cursed Child came out about, I think the actor they chose for Hermione was black, and idiots got annoyed at that.
But J.K. Rowling said about that, didn't she? She was like, well, it doesn't actually say anywhere in the books what colour her skin is. Yeah. And in fact, it does say that she has dark curly hair, which is quite a standard characteristic for black ethnicities.
Yeah.
So there's no reason why she should be considered white specifically.
But I would get that in a film sense that they'd want to keep the same actors.
Yeah.
Canonically.
Yeah.
Although they did swap out Lavender Brown for the 6th movie. Which annoyed some people because, well, I don't think the 6th book had been written once they'd originally cast her, so they didn't really know that she was going to play such a major role.
They kind of had to swap out Dumbledore, didn't they?
Yeah. Though I didn't notice that massively.
No, but was it just the first film that Richard Harris was?
First 2, I believe.
First 2, was it?
Although they were very different in tone to the rest of the series.
Yeah.
You can tell that they'd swapped from it being thought of as such of a kids' movie. But also you can see physically Daniel Radcliffe had changed a lot between the second and the third movie. It looks like
they had to rush to make them, actually, didn't they? Because
they had to make 8 films in the space of 10 years, which is a record. The only thing,
especially for the length of some of them,
the only series that got close was Saw, I think. Managed to make,
but I mean, while there's a lot of horror special effects in Saw, the actual film sets and the whole production part of it wouldn't be anywhere near as monumental a task as the Harry Potter stuff. I wouldn't imagine. But yeah.
Yeah, and also J.K. Rowling did have to sort of rush to finish the last 3 books, because I think at the time they'd started with the first one.
She must be fucking loaded.
Yeah, she is. Like, Deathly Hallows sold, I think, 19.5 million copies in the first day.
But I mean, the amount of stuff that you see, like, in shops, just with anything related to Harry Potter on it, and she gets some money for every sale that's made of anything that's got the Harry Potter logo on it. It's kind of.
And you know what's funny?
What?
It was rejected 9 times.
Well, yeah, The Hobbit was.
I think 9 times. I'm not sure specifically.
The Hobbit was rejected loads as well originally.
Yeah, the only reason it actually got past the publishers was because I think the CEO of the person that she was going to, daughter, read it and wanted to read more.
Yeah.
And if there's a better metaphor for Harry Potter about adults not having a fucking clue what they're doing, and kids having to try and figure that out, I don't know where you'll find it.
There is chance, isn't it? Really, there's no formula for making it.
Yeah,
you stand a lot better chance if you've got family that are in the business. I notice there's a lot of sort of actors and musicians that are big that have had relatives that are in the field as well. So,
I'm already noticing with my limited experience of the music world that having you as a sort of namesake is
on a smaller scale
helpful, because you also know a lot of the musicians that might be asking stuff, so you can actually have conversations with them outside of.
So it makes sense, I suppose. But in terms of if you're actually breaking into a field from nothing, you're at the mercy of chance, really, aren't you? I mean, it helps if you've got a bit of talent as well, but
yeah. Well, like, there's millions of courses, well, not millions, literally, maybe, about storytelling and writing, but I don't even think a quarter of those who take those really make it. Not even sure how many of them get published. I mean, Star Stuff's actually published.
Yeah, as a poet.
Yeah, which is surprising because she doesn't seem to really like poetry that much. Or maybe it's just other people's poetry, because I don't find I like other people's poetry, but sometimes I had a little bit of fun writing, but to be honest, not massively.
I never know which way around it is. I like Samuel Taylor Coleridge, or is it Coleridge Taylor? One of them's a musician, one of them's a poet. The one that wrote The Rime of the Ancient Mariner, which is a fantastic song by Iron Maiden. Taylor Coleridge, yeah. He also did the Xanadu'd Kubla Khan, A Stately Pleasure, Dome Decree, and all that lot. Xanadu's a film. I think it's a musical, actually.
I'm not sure. Anyway, I haven't talked about Love Actually yet.
Have we not?
Well, not properly.
Go on then, carry on.
I think we got interrupted. Or you interrupted me, probably.
Yeah, probably.
Right. It's about 9 intertwining stories about love. So I'll go briefly over the premises, not really trying to spoil the endings to them. Although I did get quite a bit confused between who is who by names, because I always find in films like I forget the name of everyone in it unless I'm really embroiled in it.
That's the same as life to me.
Yeah, maybe. Like Game of Thrones.
Oh, that's confusing as fuck.
As much as whilst I was watching it, I think I had a clue who most of the people are, but that was because like I was.
It does get a lot easier.
Obsessed with
it does get a lot easier on a second or third watch, but it is, and it's worthwhile. It's really good. But anyway, back to Love Actually. Before we get.
And a lot of people in the reviews don't seem to think that because of the intertwining stories and them being quite relatively short episodes for each scene as each sort of love relationship develops, they didn't think that was enough character development.
Right.
I think, whilst I got confused who is who, there was enough development there. I think if they'd gone for one more story, they'd pushed it.
That, I mean, it's not exactly the same, but that does it does bring to mind for me the Steven Spielberg Twilight Zone, the movie, because that has 4 separate stories in it. And it's weird, that one, because in a way there is a slight connection, but in a way it kind of mirrors the episodic nature of the actual program itself, but it's almost just like 4 episodes of Twilight Zone back to back,
right?
And then it's called a movie sort of thing. But anyway, were you wanting to say anything else about Love Actually?
Well, I'll go through because it does, as well as it can, display love in all forms.
All forms?
Not all forms, but like different. There's quite a variety of kinds of love, and the way that they end isn't always necessarily like the happy ending.
Yeah.
And sometimes it's happier that they don't end that way. So, you've got Prime Minister Hugh Grant, one of his assistants that he begins to take a liking to. You've got widowed stepdad. Is that a widower? If it's a man?
I think so.
And his son, although I think it is stepson, who has a crush, and that's quite distressing for him. You've got something at a wedding, which something develops with the best man. A writer whose wife ends up getting banged by his brother. Okay. And then he goes off into the countryside to finish his book.
Yeah.
There's an office romance. There's 2 office romances, actually. One of them's extramarital and one of them's just sort of fledgling.
Yeah.
What else? Oh, you got Bill Nye, who's a sort of rock and roll star, but likes to say fuck it to the rules quite a few times, who's trying to get a Christmas #1. I won't say how his love thing develops because it's quite surprising.
Right, okay.
Who else? Oh yeah, there's a guy that just wants to shag a lot, who goes to America to shag a lot.
Right.
And then there's, I think, stand-in sort of porn stars for like actual movies where there's sex scenes and they're sort of like doubles.
Yeah.
Which is hilarious because they're having like completely monotonous conversations whilst naked in front of one another.
Yeah.
I think that might be it. Yeah, I think that might be. But, and then at the end, they all sort of come together on Christmas Eve.
Right.
Because of a school play, and a lot of them are kids.
Okay. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Oh, I neglected to mention in one of the office romances, the man is the brother-in-law of the Prime Minister.
Okay. Sounds like you would need to be kind of switched on to follow all of this.
Yeah. I would recommend watching it. You could watch it tonight if you want.
Yeah, I'd
if we have time.
give it a go. Yeah. Although I've had a couple of glasses of port, so it might not be the best idea. But
it's all right. I was watching it at like 3 a.m. last night. Which is why I was up at noon today. Well, one of the reasons.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I find it quite interesting because they all play out quite differently. And whilst it is a little bit sugar-coated by the feel of things, because it's trying to be all positive around Christmas and all that, some of them just sort of awkwardly fade away, which is kind of accurate to how love sort of goes, I guess. Just sort of, some people just sort of... There is a cliche sort of running at the airport to say your last goodbyes to someone. Which is surprising who actually gets to do that.
Yeah.
Anyway, I think I've said what I can. I would very much recommend it. To me, it's the best Christmas film now. It's very funny.
Yeah.
And I think because of how it switches perspectives quite a lot, and I think I quite like things that switch perspective quite a lot. Whilst that can be an issue for character development, I think that just keeps the interest going. Because if you're focusing on one of the stories for the entire film, you might get a little bit bored. And some of them don't have a massive amount of depth from, like the guy that just wants to get shagged. You can't really get too much out of that, but it's still funny.
But anyway, this two-parter that we've done on movies, I'm finding quite interesting in that it's quite difficult to engage talking about films that one of us has seen but the other one hasn't.
Yeah.
But one thing I think that might have come out of this is sort of the direction for the future of our sort of podcasting.
Yeah, we're not sure what's going to be in that announcement as of now. So
you will know by the time this is.
If you've watched it, please watch it because it'll be interesting. Maybe.
In fact, the first episode of whatever we end up doing will have been out as well.
Yeah.
Which I think we've already recorded some audio for, haven't we?
Yeah, about the Shawshank Redemption, like we said.
A quick first reaction. Yeah.
Well, it was about 5 minutes in the end.
Yeah, which is why I'm thinking that format is possibly a good one to explore because we.
Yeah, we're just thinking about ideas right now, even though it's quite near to New Year's whilst we're recording this. Any other films we want to talk about?
I don't think there's anything significant that we could talk about that we've both seen.
Are there any other cinematic universes? Of course there are, but...
Well, DC were trying to sort of start their own, weren't they? Was it Justice League type stuff?
They're now doing Aquaman as well with the same actor.
Yeah.
Who's actually Khal Drogo, which is all I can know him as.
Yeah.
But they're still shit, I'd imagine.
I've seen
the only good thing about Justice League, I think, was The Flash, because he at least had some sense of humour. But I think it's just... something that Marvel's managed to get around by amping up their villains. And I think superhero movies are often defined by their villains.
It depends how far you take it in terms of if you're talking about universes, because obviously there've been 13 Star Trek films.
Yeah, but
and various incarnations of TV series.
Well, 3 of them are set on a different timeline, so the previous events, whilst like there's the old Spock, the previous events of the movies don't really matter.
Yeah, but they have done it in a way so that it can still work in a continuity sense.
I'm not sure. I suppose it wouldn't really matter. Actually, it might do. What timeline Discovery's set in. Because I think it happens around about 10 years before the original series.
Right.
And the Kelvin timeline switch would have happened.
But obviously after Enterprise, then.
Well, yeah. That switch in the timelines after that, but I think Discovery would be after that.
Yeah.
I'm not sure if that's part of the Prime timeline, though, so it's a bit weird. Although they are bringing back the Captain Picard thing, aren't they?
Yes. Yeah, Captain Picard's getting his own series.
I'm not sure what that's
starting in 2019. It's apparently, it's him older, and it's apparently more kind of planet-bound, politically based stuff. Because I'll be an old man now.
Yeah. I feel like a lot of people already get a bit bored with Star Trek's politics sometimes. Because, well, it's a lot more diplomacy-based rather than shooting everything in sight.
Yeah,
like it will be quite.
There are certainly aspects of.
It's quite a big deal when there's a fight in a Star Trek episode.
Certainly aspects of Next Generation and Deep Space Nine that get into the whole political side quite deeply. But I think that gives them time to explore concepts.
Yeah.
Some of the continuous, you get the to be continued things where you sometimes get 2-parters in that in the Next Generation. And Deep Space Nine, some of them run to like 8 or 9 episodes, the storylines.
Yeah. Well, by the looks of things, Deep Space Nine and I guess Voyager were a lot more about an arcing story.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Although...
But Discovery was completely an arcing story, wasn't it?
Yes. Next Generation does have a slightly arcing story with the Borg and Q.
Yeah, there's always elements that...
And they reference previous episodes when they meet characters again.
Yeah.
It's still very episodic.
Yeah, a lot of them stand.
Also, I think the development of... Well, I suppose character development in general, in most things, if it's a good TV show, won't be changing every episode.
Indeed.
Anyway, we're getting more onto TV now. Yeah. So I think we've said what we can about. There's probably a lot more to talk about films.
But for a general movies podcast.
Yeah, without going like ridiculously in depth into each film. I think we've talked about it enough. And I'm glad we did a second part because there's still quite a lot to talk about, especially with like censorship and stuff. Anyway, I've been Firebolt.
I have been the Orbiter.
I couldn't even hear that.
Hey, what?
Don't know why I'm still talking close to the mic because I'm not anyone whispering.
It's getting strange now. It's going very
2001
A Space Odyssey.
Bye.
Do you remember that?
Yeah, that was a weird film.
It is.
Like, once it goes past that, it just sort of... Interstellar is also weird in that way. just a sort of like...
Interstellar, God, yeah.
Okay, we're going to start up the conversation again.
That was really fucking weird towards the end, wasn't it? Interstellar. I really liked it.
Okay, actually, yeah. Back onto the confusing films thing from like Logan. And it's not because like the plot's massively convoluted, it just seems that they're not really clear on some details, or I just didn't care enough.
I didn't have any problems with Logan myself. I completely followed that, no problem.
Well, it
just seemed to me that it was just set years after everything else.
It just felt quite slow, I think.
But I think that was...
And not in a tense way.
No, but I think that was the style that the film was made in, deliberately.
Yeah, but that doesn't mean I have to like it.
No.
But then it went really weirdly into the big action thing towards the end.
Mm.
But I guess it kind of needed to for its sort of thematic closure.
I liked it.
I didn't hate it, it's just it was a bit sort of
Yeah. Shall we try and finish?
With Interstellar, that was a bit confusing as well. Although I did follow that.
Contact, another one. Have you seen
until
that?
Until it goes into the weird bit where just everything goes wibbly, and he goes into the past to send a message. There's no real explanation for why that happened.
Do you remember Contact?
No.
I don't know if you've seen that.
Contact. I'll look it up because I might have seen it.
It is one of my favourite films. 1997. Here we go. Robert Zemeckis. It's a Carl Sagan novel.
I don't think I've seen it.
Oh. Jodie Foster. Very, very good.
Another one that I found a bit... I did follow it slightly better than Logan, was Red Sparrow.
Oh, yeah. That I enjoyed a lot more the first time I watched it than the second time.
Right. Any reason why?
It was good. Possibly because you don't know what the ending's going to be and how it's going to turn out. You're a lot more open to the possibilities. And I think you speculate more about what's going on, especially with this sort of spy-based thing. When you're not sure who's on which side, it's a lot easier to get to kind of second guess yourself than if you kind of know how it finishes.
But I don't like being like completely in the dark. There has to be some sort of well, in terms of writing, I think I've heard this from Dan Brown. It has to make a promise to the audience.
Yeah.
And that promise wasn't exactly clear.
Right.
Before, like, the thing that they know that we don't know wasn't completely clear.
Right.
What it was supposed to reveal.
Mm. There's another good one like that, The Prestige. Do you remember The Prestige? That's a good one.
I don't think I've seen that.
That's a very good one. Anyway, we should be drawing to a close.
Yeah. Okay.
We have plenty of material to draw on for future episodes of whatever we do with movie-based stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But I think this has served as a good introduction to some of that. Some of that, maybe.
I don't know, really. We'll be doing like little movie reviews on the Bollocks report if that is developed by now. So
in some way,
we'll see how that goes.
Yeah.
Anyway, I've been Firebolt.
I've been the Orbiter.
And this has been our second goodbye. This has been episode 26, movies.
Bye.
Bye.
Again. Have we finished now?
Ooh, that was another thing about two endings.
No. What?
About two endings.
What was?
Lord of the Rings has 2 endings. The ring being destroyed and Frodo being at peace.
Yeah, but I'm not doing that.